Good morning. Welcome back to Advanced Narcissism Understanding. In the comments of one of the videos was a link to this article. And I'm going to read through this article. There's a short video that just kind of backs up the article as well. I'll play that at the end. It just basically solidifies societal narcissism being fueled by pedos. And again, all linking back to that same family in England that has been wreaking havoc on this planet for 400 or 500 years. The degeneracy is mind-blowing. And they're everywhere. Perv dossier, Prince Charles' mentor, Lord Mountbatten, was a homosexual with a perversion for young boys, FBI files claim. And this is from yesterday. Newly unearthed FBI files describe Prince Charles' mentor, Lord Mountbatten, as a homosexual with a perversion for young boys. The decorated war hero was seen as a father figure to the young Charles, his great-nephew, and is even credited with introducing his father to Queen Elizabeth. Hands are all over it. The Prince of Wales was mentored by Mountbatten as he grew up and described him as the grandfather I never had. Mountbatten, who also features in The Crown on Netflix, even coached his great-nephew on his love life. I bet he did. As the last Viceroy of India, Mountbatten oversaw the British withdrawal and eventually became Chief of Defense until 1965. The military man was also well known for his sexual appetites, sparked in part by his own comment about his wife. Edwina and I spent all of our married lives getting into other people's beds. So him and his wife. So the wife is just as much as involved as he is. Low morals. More is known about Edwina's extramarital affairs, but in the 75-year-old dossier, the aristocratic source close to them, interviewed by the FBI in the 1940s, described them as persons of extremely low morals. British historian Andrew Lowney used freedom of information laws to source the files and quotes them in his new biography of the famous couple. Another source in the FBI files claimed that Mountbatten's private life made him an unfit man to direct any sort of military operations. In Lowney's book, The Mountbattens, Their Lives, Loves, Ron Perks, who was Mountbatten's driver in Malta in 1948, also breaks his silence. He tells how Mountbatten had one favored destination, the Red House near Rabat, which was an upmarket gay brothel used by senior naval officers, which he had not released at the time. Homosexual acts were banned in the UK until 1967, and many memos about Mountbatten's sexuality have been edited or destroyed since. And again, if he was just gay, who cares? Who cares if you're gay? Who cares? I don't. No one does. When you start bringing children into it, perversion. Disturbing allegations also claim he had an interest in underage boys. Elizabeth de la Poor Beresford, Baroness Dices, when interviewed about another matter, had mentioned being an intimate of Queen Elizabeth, Queen Mary, and their ladies-in-waiting. The first FBI files date back to February 1944, soon after Mountbatten had become Supreme Allied Commander of Southeast Asia. So think about this. 1944, we're pretty much in the height of World War II against the Nazis and Hitler and D-Day, and we're jumping into South France. I mean, and our FBI is still running background on these idiots, seeing he's Allied commander and you can't control, and we can't, and we really can't trust him because he's an out and out degenerate pervert looking for underage boys. Here's the know what? Know why this didn't come out? I'll tell you exactly why. Because that is exactly the argument the Nazis were using to invade Europe. That this is exactly what was going to be going on. They were going to be coming to your children after your children with perversion and all that type of stuff. That's why it was kept quiet. That's why. That was exactly the argument to keep that Hitler was using to the United States to try to keep the United States out of World War II, out of Europe, saying, "Hey, the Russians, the Soviet communists have been infiltrated by perverts, And they were blaming Jewish perverts, Jewish communist perverts that are want to infiltrate Europe and take over with their perversions and come after your children. So now we have to invade France and the rest of Europe to save it from these people." That was their argument, to try to keep us out of the war. That was Hitler's argument in the first place, to take over everything. So when the FBI goes and see who's the Allied commander and running things within the, oh shit, better not let that get out. And I'm not saying Hitler was right and everything. No, I'm not. I'm just telling you why things went down the way they did. It's scary. It's scary that these people are in charge. It's scary. February 1944. 5 months. When was D-Day? June 1944. So we're talking 5 months before D-Day, and you're finding out that the major ally you're about to jump into to save, okay, this is the type of shit that's going down. I've been telling you, the problem societally, the problem comes from that fucking family. That whole monarchy needs to go. It is fueled by sexual deviance and pedophilia. It just is. It just is. The fact that this dude also introduced the now queen and her husband to each other, it just tells you it's so deep, it's so entrenched, it's so ingrained. And it's the same type of hush-hush system that happens in a monarchy, that happens in poor urban areas or third world areas. It's the same thing. It reads, she states that in these circles, Lord Louis Mountbatten and his wife are considered persons of extremely low morals. She stated that Lord Louis Mountbatten is known to be a homosexual with a perversion for young boys. This is what the FBI is finding out about our main ally, just as we're about to jump into France, storm the beaches of Normandy. No wonder it didn't come out. No wonder it didn't come out. In Lady Dicey's opinion, he's an unfit man to direct any sort of military operations because of this condition. She stated further that his wife, Lady Mountbatten, was considered equally erratic. Mr. Lowney believes U.S. spies began compiling intelligence on Mountbatten's private life after he was made Supreme Allied Commander of Southeast Asia during the Second World War. It is not known if the material was passed to the British government. Mountbatten was assassinated by an IRA bomb in 1979 that also killed Nicholas, John's mother, Lady Brabourne, and a 15-year-old crew member, Paul Maxwell. The book, The Mountbattens, will be published on August 22nd. And the fact that he was then allowed to ascend after we defeated Nazis, after we overthrew Hitler, okay, now he's allowed to ascend knowing the low moral character that he has. Well, why? I mean, because that's when the rise of the CIA, our own CIA, came about. And probably this guy, I would imagine, was their first CIA asset that we used leverage on and sexual deviance and the sort to get our way, because we just continued. Our own CIA just continued this nonsense with this horrible family. And it leads right to Epstein. Because if you're not convinced by now that Epstein was nothing more than a CIA asset and all his money comes from setting people like this guy up that doesn't even really need, just seeking out bringing out their inner pedo and then blackmailing them and putting them in positions of major power and social change to cause societal narcissism and strife. Let's look at the video real quick. It's just a real short recap. Look at this guy. Look at this. You see a guy like this, you know he's got issues. Who would go out in public like this? No, what is that? Get the hell out of here. And his wife, which also means, and don't let that pass. Again, look at this clown. Look at him in that Major Domo outfit. Jesus Christ. Oh God, they love their pomp and circumstance, don't they? Don't they? It's not known if it was ever passed. Guess what? It wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't. That's where all this starts. And that's what fuels it, is this societal narcissism. Is there's just these pedos everywhere. 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 This isn't coincidence. This is by design. This is how they barter and trade and blackmail each other for power and prestige. And we knew about it. And we knew about it before we jumped into Europe. Think about that. This is what we were jumping into Europe for. You're jumping in to kick out a horrible regime and a horrible ideology and murderous people. I get you have to deal with what you got to deal with at the time. That's who your ally is. But once it was overthrown and defeated, the fact that this was allowed to fester, and probably what actually sparked the CIA, this guy had to be the CIA's very first asset. Because the CIA was founded, 1947, 1948? Who do you think that would be their first? Who do you think would be their first asset? They've been using kids and sex trafficking and pedophilia and debauchery for decades. For decades. And if you're not aware of it, it's going to go right by you. They are everywhere. And every time you see that family, you see that queen, you see anything, any of it's being praised or lauded, you need to call it out. See, those people are disgusting. They are the cause of most of the planet's problems, and they continue to be so. No morals, and they just thrive on debauchery. That's them. So, let me know what you think in the comments section below, everybody. And if you want a video on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you have a lecture topic as well, you guys know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Hope to hear from you soon. And with that said, class dismissed.